Hi guys, Brooke here today for Lawyering Outside the Lines. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. I'm a couple minutes behind. I've been behind all day by like 2 minutes. My internet is insanely slow. But today we are kind of reflecting on October being World Mental Health Month. We do a lot of self development work here at MBL, and I know if you've tuned in before, you've heard us share some of our stories, our why, specifically why. We practice the way we do, how it benefits us and works with our lives. But also, personally, we do a lot of self development, and today I want to talk to you about one thing specifically. But first, there are two ways that we can grow and substantially actually shift our mindsets. One is by changing our thoughts. And we've said it before, and my mantra that I live by is that thoughts become things. And what I mean by that is that you think something, whether you want it or that's the direction you want to go, you internalize that, you believe that it is possible or believe that it is true. You take intentionally actionable steps and then you make it happen. Essentially, you manifest whatever it is that you are thinking. So, the other way is by understanding our feelings and how to manage those. And I'm talking about the whole range of uncomfortable emotions from sadness to frustration. And we tend to focus more on the first way to grow. The thoughts become things because we want to think positive, and thinking about those things actually excites us and it's a little bit easier. We tend to kind of ignore our feelings, especially the unpleasant ones. So we don't really sit in our feelings much. We distract ourselves or we push those feelings down, which is really dangerous and can lead to a really dark place. So today, I'm going to focus on and talk about our feelings and how they control our behaviors, thoughts, and relationships in business and life. First off, feelings are normal. We are all human, and feeling those feelings, processing through those things, does not make us weak. It actually makes us stronger on the other side. And it helps us become healthier emotionally and keeps burnout and overwhelm at bay, which I experience both burnout and overwhelm. And I think as attorneys, we probably all have been there to some degree at some point in time. So feeling those feelings is really important. So how do we do this? Kind of overall, keep in mind that feelings are temporary. So negative and or however you want to frame it, uncomfortable feelings actually hold us back. But you should really lean into those feelings. And I was reading and listening to Dr. Joan Rosenberg recently, and she actually has a formula for this, and it was really interesting. And it's referred to as the Rosenberg reset. So if you can actually experience and move through 8 unpleasant feelings, you can pursue anything you want in life. And so she says that formula is one choice, 8 feelings, 90 seconds. And the premise is that it's not these big choices. We all think it's the big choices that we make in life that are going to determine our fulfillment and our happiness. But, we think that that drives our well-being. It's actually the moment-to-moment choices. And they're actually our choices. We can choose how we feel in those moments. But those moment-to-moment decisions and choices, that is what actually drives our well-being. So step one to actually work through this formula that she describes is to be present. So you want to stay fully in the moment. That's really important. You want to be aware and you don't want to avoid. That is the key. So check in with yourself in situations when those feelings come up. So how did you respond? Did you, run? There were times in the past I remember I would just avoid my bank account altogether because it stressed me out. So, did you just avoid it completely? Did you run away? Did you distract yourself? A lot of times, we distract ourselves with food, alcohol, shopping sometimes, even little things too, like fidgeting or maybe, binging TV or whatever it is. And ultimately, sometimes people just completely shut down in these situations. So how did you actually respond in that situation? And step two is the 8 unpleasant feelings that she was talking about. So those feelings are sadness, shame, helplessness, anger, vulnerability, embarrassment, disappointment, and frustration. So, we typically think of these as bad or negative feelings, and we label them as such. And they are not bad. They're not negative feelings. They're unpleasant, yes, and they're also uncomfortable. But here is actually an opportunity to shift that narrative in your mind about your thoughts surrounding those feelings. So, we really want to change that narrative so that you're looking at them differently. Because what happens is we end up avoiding them because we're completely, afraid of them for multiple reasons. We're afraid that if we address them, that they're going to just go on forever. If we're sitting in sadness, we don't want to be sad forever. Or, they may be too intense. We just cannot handle the intensity of the emotion. Or even, for a lot of us, we want to be able to control at least ourselves if we can't control anything else. And we want to be in control. We're afraid of losing that control. But the key really is that our experience of these feelings are equivalent to us being capable in the world. It gives us that confidence. It's tied to our capacity, to actually experience and move through those feelings. So if you can do that, you can grow more confident, and you're also going to be emotionally stronger. So when I say move through it, what does that mean? When these emotions are triggered, it's a biochemical rush and then flush. That's how Dr. Rosenberg describes it. So what does that mean exactly? It means what we feel emotionally is felt in the body first. So it's going to be a bodily or a physical sensation, and it does not feel good at all. I've had a really rough year. A lot of us I know have had, kind of a difficult year this year for multiple reasons. For me, it's been, big life changes, grieving people, living and past people, letting go of situations, letting go of expectations. And all of it has initially manifested physically. And so, sometimes these emotional things, they literally hurt. I mean, it's a pain. It's painful. So we really try to avoid that pain. That's what we're trying to avoid. It's not that we don't want to feel anything. We just, don't want that actual pain. So think about, what feelings you may be avoiding in your life, or things that may be actually holding you back. And then notice when you experience it, notice the reaction in your body. So I had a situation over this past weekend where I was kind of scrambling last minute to find some help because my plan that I had in place had actually fallen through. And so I was really consumed and focused on that, and, messaging people and trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I started kind of feeling hot and really flushed. And my daughter walked in and she said, Mom, what is that? I had a rash. And she says, why is your neck red like that? And what was happening is, I realized it was stress when I had to stop and think about it and explain to her, because I was pretty calm in the moment, trying to figure it out. But I was really overwhelmed, and I was having anxiety, and it actually had physically manifested itself that way. And I've recognized in myself when I don't like to be hurried or rushed. And so when I get into that situation, when I get anxious, that's how it manifests for me. I mean, my neck physically gets red. So, look for things like that. But in the uncomfortable, what's so important is when you're in that uncomfortable, that is where you're going to grow. And so instead of, shutting down, instead of backing away from that, move toward that, go in that direction, because if you're feeling that, you're feeling it for a reason. And you're not going to be able to move past it if you do not sit in it, if you do not work through it and get on the other side. And so, the overall solution to handle these feelings that Dr. Rosenberg says is really to ride the biochemical wave. So that rush, that wave that she was talking about, what I mentioned earlier, it lasts about 60 to 90 seconds, which what that means is kind of how I started this out. Feelings are temporary. They're always temporary. They may come back, but they're always temporary. And they're always going to go away. And so when I heard her say that, it made me laugh because I always read this motivational quote. I always end up right in front of this quote on the wall when I'm working at Orange Theory in the mornings, when I'm on the treadmill about to die. And it says, you can do anything for 60 seconds. And so if I get to where I'm really short of breath or I'm like ready to give up, I always think I can do anything for 60 seconds. I have to completely tell myself that over and over again. So because I know at the end of that 60 seconds, I'm going to be walking. I've got a recovery. And that's exactly what is happening here. So your feelings are always going to subside. They're not going to be there forever. And grief specifically, I mentioned that that's been a big struggle for me. Grief specifically is several things. I mean, you can experience one emotion at a time, one of these negative or well, not negative, but uncomfortable emotions. See, I'm reframing it right here as we talk. But these uncomfortable emotions, you can experience multiple at a time, but usually it's no more than, one or two. But grief is kind of mixed emotions. There's several things in there at one time. So, and it kind of comes up out of nowhere and then it always subsides. And so I was thinking about this when I was reading that from her, and I am part of a top secret-ish, not really, but kind of divorced women's group on Facebook for local women here to kind of support each other. And the grief of loss of a relationship specifically is no joke. And this doesn't necessarily apply to a romantic relationship. There's all sorts of relationships, business relationships, friendships, family relationships, whatever. But it's a huge struggle for many of us in our groups and many people out there in our relationships, not only with others, but also, with ourselves. And so, that really is a legit thing. But what we need to do, again, is to really stay present and stay fully present and stay in that moment. Because when you stay present, when you're dealing with these things, you start feeling centered. You're going to feel relieved. And then a lot of times what happens once you've worked through it, because you've kept yourself centered, you stayed in the moment, you're kind of relieved that you're processing it, you end up, sorry, I got a pop-up. Let's install something randomly in the middle of my live, of course, because that's how this week is going. But anyways, what happens is afterwards, you have these insights. You have these insights that follow, that if you had not worked through it or not set with it, you wouldn't have those realizations. You would repeat that cycle and you would, it'd be intense and you would shut down, and it's just not healthy. And so if you keep practicing it, it gets easier. So keep doing it. And what ends up happening in the long run, if you're successfully doing this, is you rewrite some of those stories you've told yourself, some of your, past life circumstances. You're essentially rewriting that old narrative in your life. So, working on this, doing this will help you better navigate your relationships in life, helps you to have those hard conversations. I've had several of these hard conversations, and I used to hate confrontation, and I thought of it as confrontation, but it's not. If you are in this moment, you have these emotions, if you can stay centered, you can have hard conversations, and these conversations are not coming from an erratic place. What they're coming from, is a good place where you're wanting to move forward and you're addressing the situation. And so it's not, a bad conversation, uncomfortable. It's just a hard conversation. So it allows you to be more confident going into those conversations, and also allows you to pursue goals unencumbered. So, you don't have those things holding you back, because you're not fearful that you're going to experience one of these emotions, because you know how to handle them if you get there. And you also feel so much more comfortable and so much more you. So embrace those feelings. Know they will help you level up every time you've, moved with it, worked through it, and gotten to the other side. But thank you so much today for tuning in. And just real quick, our 5-week How to Build a Virtual Law Firm course registration is up now on our website. And the course actually kicks off on October 26th. So be sure to check it out. There's information on our website about it. You can reach out to us if you have any questions. Get signed up to learn how to modernize your law practice and design a firm that works for your life. We will drop the link in the comments below. I'm going to try not to forget, and Laura will probably help me if I do. So thanks for joining us. We're going to be back here next week at 1 Eastern, 12 Central, 11 Mountain, and 10 Pacific. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Thanks so much. Bye.